We are in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania today, and it is one of the most Lithuanian cities in America. We have mapped more than 20 Lithuanian heritage sites here, including 2 cemeteries, many monuments, and several Lithuanian churches. And we meet Jonas Baltrus in the Lithuanian Country Club of Western Pennsylvania today, who is one of the most active Lithuanians here. So what is the story behind Pittsburgh Lithuanian sites? Why there are so many of them and how they were built?
Well, I'm not a native Pittsburgher, but my understanding is that probably back before even World War I, Pittsburgh was one of the top industrial sites within the United States, with the steel mills, coal mines, and other metals and glass. So that attracted immigrants, and not only Lithuanians, but Irish, Italians. Those are big in Pittsburgh. But of course, the Lithuanians came with them. And they worked in those jobs in the steel plants and then out in the countryside of a much smaller Pittsburgh than there is now in the coal mines.
Indeed, by mentioning Pittsburgh, I mentioned a much larger area of around Pittsburgh, which includes Bentleyville, Donora, East Vandergrift, and other smaller towns and villages which had Lithuanian churches, and in some Lithuanian clubs are still operating. And this Lithuanian Country Club is located also in another suburb called Clairton. But previously there was a Lithuanian club in Pittsburgh South Side, and so you were part of that club as well. So yes. What happened that that club was closed and it moved here?
It almost closed probably back in the 60s, 1960s, but they took on almost like a gambling. It's called bingo. And they ran a bingo game for a few decades. And that was a good money generator. So they were able to renovate that club. It drew a lot of members in at that point. But then the DPs, the post-World War II members, became older and older, and they couldn't volunteer their time to keep the club going. That, along with the bingo, began to die out due to various government regulations and things that happened at the government level. So the funds dried up too. So between losing people and losing money, that club just building became too much for us to maintain. Meanwhile, we merged with what was then known as the Lithuanian Country Club here in the South Hills of Pittsburgh. And they were in some financial straits at that time as well. We had money on the south side. They were losing members and they didn't have a good source of income here. So while the bingo, before it completely died out, we were able to merge with the club out here. And then we were able to invest some money to at least start some renovations. And then finally, when we closed the club on the south side, we were able to sell it, and that gave us a good bit of money that we could finally renovate and fix up this place. New floors, new windows, new lighting, and a lot of the stuff that you see around here today was brought from the south side. It wasn't original to this building.
The south side of Pittsburgh was the original Lithuanian district of Pittsburgh. There was a huge St. Casimir Lithuanian church here. The building still stands, but it is now turned into apartments. Former Lithuanian school there, and the club is closed, but the building still survives. And in 2017, we still saw Vytis marks on the front of the building. But right now, it seems the central Lithuanian life in Pittsburgh moved here to the country club. So what is happening here? What festivals are you celebrating here?
During the winter, we don't do much because of the snow, and people just don't want to come out in the winter. But by the time spring comes around, we start planning for our Žemaitis celebration in June. And that is our biggest celebration of the year. Probably draws, this year was 70 people, 70, 85 people. At one time, it drew probably 150. During the summer, we might meet here and have a picnic on a Sunday. After that, September, we have a pig roast. That's also a big draw. It's quite an unusual festival for us. For Christmas time, we have Kuchos, which is also a big draw. So those are our main Three main events.
I see. I'm glad to see the Lithuanian Country Club restored. When we visited it the first time in 2017, it was actually undergoing renovation still, but now it looks so much better. And I'm glad it draws Lithuanians here. When you will visit Pittsburgh, try to visit the Lithuanian cemeteries in Pittsburgh, which are also quite large and one of just the very few Lithuanian cemeteries in America that Lithuanians were able to establish in the larger cities. Everything, all these locations are marked on the Destination Lithuanian America map at map.lithuania.com and explained in detail at the Encyclopedia of Lithuanian Heritage Abroad at global.lithuania.com. And if you want to see more interviews and stories like this, please follow this YouTube channel.